Hello, welcome to the channel Wise Stories. Enjoy watching.
After I left with the kids to stay at my parents', my mother-in-law flew in like a bullet to change the locks in my apartment. And when she happily opened the door with the new key, she froze in horror when she saw. The phone vibrated right in the middle of the meeting. Isabella glanced at the screen. Mother-in-law. Again. Fourth time this morning. She declined the call and returned to the presentation. The head of the marketing department was going over the new advertising campaign, but Isabella was no longer listening. One thought kept circling in her head. What happened now? What did Carmen come up with this time? When the meeting ended, Isabella stepped into the hallway and called back. Long rings. Then her mother-in-law's voice, sweet and sticky. Isabella, finally. I thought you'd forgotten about us completely. I was at work, Carmen. What happened? Oh, nothing special. I just wanted to remind you. It's Friday. Remember we agreed I'd come over to watch Diego and Valentina. Do you remember? Isabella didn't remember. More precisely, she remembered very well that she had firmly refused 3 days ago when her mother-in-law once again hinted that the grandchildren missed their grandmother. Carmen, I told you today wouldn't work. I have plans for the evening. What plans? Carmen's voice sharpened. Children are more important than any plans, or do you think otherwise? Isabella clenched the phone. Breathe evenly, don't snap. We'll talk about this later. I need to work. All right. Carmen sighed as if she'd been deeply wounded. I just wanted to help, but I guess I'm not needed. Isabella hung up, sat on the windowsill in the empty meeting room, covered her face with her hands. She was exhausted, tired of these calls, this pressure, this constant guilt Carmen could trigger with just one tone of voice. Isabella had bought her apartment on Simón Bolívar Avenue at 29. On her own. No loans, no help from parents, no husband. He wasn't even in the picture yet. She had worked 6 years as a purchasing manager in a large retail chain, took overtime, saved on everything. Her friends vacationed in Miami. She went to visit her parents in Cartagena. Her friends changed wardrobes every season. She wore the same jeans for 3 years. When she signed the purchase contract, she cried right there in the realtor's office. A grown woman crying like a girl. Because it was her victory, her independence, her space. A 3-room apartment, 72 square meters, a brick building, not new, but solid. She renovated it herself. Put up wallpaper on weekends. A friend installed the laminate cheaply. She chose the furniture for months, a mustard-colored sofa, a solid ash dining table, an armchair with a high back by the window. Cozy, modern, nothing excessive. Her space, her rules. She met Alvaro by chance. Rather, his friend Rocio introduced them. She hosted a party and invited people. Alvaro was a programmer in a startup, short, skinny, glasses, perpetually messy hair. They started talking in the kitchen, discussing shows, books, life plans. He seemed calm, reasonable, without arrogance, without a desire to conquer the world. Just a normal guy. They dated for 8 months. Everything was smooth, no drama. He came to her place, stayed over, but never suggested moving in. Isabella didn't push, she liked the distance. He in his rented studio on the outskirts, she in her apartment. Freedom, but with someone close by. Then she got pregnant. Not planned, but it happened. Alvaro reacted calmly, said, "Let's get married." No romance, no kneeling, just a statement of fact. Isabella agreed. Not because she dreamed of a wedding, but because a child needs a father, a normal family, the way it should be. But before registering the marriage, Isabella set one condition, a prenup. Alvaro was surprised. Why? I'm not claiming your apartment. Just to be clear, she said. You don't mind, right? He shrugged. I don't mind. They went to the notary and signed. The apartment remained Isabella's property under any circumstances. Clear and simple. Alvaro signed without even reading. She relaxed, thinking, here he is, a grown man who respects boundaries. Carmen appeared a week after the wedding. Alvaro warned. Mom wants to meet you. She'll come tomorrow, okay? Of course, Isabella replied. She was curious to see the woman who raised such a calm son. The mother-in-law arrived on Saturday around noon. Isabella opened the door. A woman around 60 stood there, a bit overweight, brown jacket, large tote bag, dyed reddish hair, styled in waves, a thick layer of foundation. She smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Isabella? Nice to meet you. I'm Carmen, Alvaro's mother. She walked into the hallway, glanced around. Her gaze slid over the walls, lingered on the new shoes in the closet, then the mirror, the key shelf. Not bad, she said. Bright, clean. Alvaro, you didn't tell me it was so spacious here? Isabella led her to the kitchen. Carmen took containers of food out of her bag, cutlets, mashed potatoes, salad, homemade jam pastries. I thought, since you're pregnant, cooking must be hard. So I brought this. Alvaro loves it, since childhood, right, son? Alvaro nodded, hugged his mother. Isabella put on the kettle, set the table. They sat, drank tea, ate pastries. Carmen started talking about herself. She lived alone in a small 2-room apartment in Chapinero. Her husband died 15 years ago. Small pension, barely enough. She worked as a cleaner in a school, had side jobs. Complained about her health, neighbors, utility bills. Isabella listened, nodded, sympathized. Then Carmen got up, walked through the apartment, peeked into rooms, bathroom, stood by the bedroom window. Nice view, she said. To the park. Must be quiet. Yes, it's quiet, Isabella confirmed. Lucky you. I suffocate in my hole. Windows face the courtyard, dumpsters under the window, horrible smell in summer, and cold in winter. Alvaro frowned. Mom, don't exaggerate. No exaggeration, Carmen waved. You know how many times I told you we need to change something. But how can I buy an apartment on a pension? Silence fell. Isabella felt tension but stayed quiet. Carmen sighed, returned to the kitchen, finished her tea. She left late, when it was already getting dark. Before leaving, she hugged Isabella and said, "Take care of yourself, dear, and take care of Alvaro. He's my only one." When the door closed, Isabella exhaled. Alvaro asked, "So, what do you think of my mom?" "She's fine," Isabella lied. "A nice woman." In truth, she felt uneasy. Something in those looks, those sighs, those complaints felt off. But she decided not to jump to conclusions. Maybe first impressions can be wrong. Diego was born in March. The birth was difficult. Isabella stayed in the hospital for a week. Alvaro came every day, brought fruit and water, sat with her. But Carmen showed up unannounced, pushed her way into the room, ignoring the nurse's protests. She sat on the edge of Isabella's bed and leaned over the newborn. "Oh, he's so tiny, so skinny. Are you even feeding him properly?" Isabella was taken aback. "Of course I'm feeding him. And you have milk? Your breasts look kind of small. Maybe he's not getting enough?" "He gets enough," Isabella said, harsher than she intended. "The doctors check everything. He's fine." Carmen pressed her lips together and turned away. Then she pulled a jar of baby food from her bag. "I brought this just in case. If needed, give him extra." Isabella took the jar and silently set it on the nightstand. After her mother-in-law left, she gave it to her hospital roommate. At home, the nightmare began. Not immediately, gradually. First, Carmen started coming once a week. She brought food, watched Diego while Isabella slept or showered. It looked like help, but each time she found a reason to criticize. "Isabella, you're washing the diapers wrong. You should do it by hand, with baby detergent. Isabella, you're dressing him too warmly, he's sweating. Isabella, you don't hold him enough. A baby needs contact with its mother." At first Isabella defended herself, then she started snapping back. Alvaro would interrupt. "Mom, enough already, she's doing everything right." "I'm only trying to help," Carmen pouted. "I have experience, I raised you, my son." Then the visits became more frequent. Twice a week, 3 times, then almost daily. Isabella gave her a key in case of emergency, but Carmen used it like it was hers. She came without calling, without warning. Isabella could be in the shower or feeding the baby, and the mother-in-law was already in the kitchen, boiling water, laying out food she brought, saying to her son, "Son, you should hang a shelf here, it'd be more convenient." "Alvaro, why did you put the crib by the window?" There's a draft. Move it to the corner. Alvaro obeyed, hung shelves, moved furniture. Isabella protested, but he waved her off. It's just a tiny thing. Mom knows better. She has experience. Isabella started noticing things disappearing. Her favorite mug with Best Marketer written on it vanished. Then the book she read before bed disappeared. Then her notebook with work notes. She searched, asked Alvaro. He shrugged. She asked Carmen, who looked past her and didn't answer. When Diego turned a year and a half, Isabella went back to work. They hired a nanny, Lucia, a student in education. She picked Diego up from daycare, walked with him, fed him. Carmen took it as a personal insult. Why would you hire a stranger? I can watch my grandson. Carmen, it's hard for you too. You work, you get tired. Nonsense. I'd give up everything for my grandson. What? You don't trust me? Isabella stayed silent. In truth, she didn't trust her. Too many barbed comments, too many intrusions. But after a month, Lucia quit, saying she found a better job. In reality, Isabella saw Carmen talking to her in the courtyard for a long time. Lucia became odd after that, then left. Isabella didn't argue and hired another nanny, Soledad. She lasted 3 weeks and left as well. The third, Yesenia, stayed a month. What are you telling them? Isabella asked Carmen bluntly. Nothing, Carmen protested. They just see I can do it better. I'm the real grandmother, they're strangers. Isabella gave up. Carmen officially started watching Diego after daycare. She came at 4 in the afternoon, stayed until 8, fed him, played, put him to bed. Isabella came home exhausted, and the mother-in-law greeted her with, "So, worked again? Hope they at least pay you well? Diego waited all day for his mommy, and you stayed late again. That's not good." Isabella clenched her teeth and stayed quiet. Alvaro didn't intervene. He tried to ignore conflicts, put on headphones, sat at his computer. A year later, Valentina was born. The second birth was easier, but Isabella was drained. 2 kids, work, the house, everything at once. Carmen offered help again. Isabella agreed because she had no strength to refuse, no other options. The mother-in-law moved in, officially for 2 weeks to help with the baby. But after 2 weeks she didn't leave. Where would I go now? You're not coping. Diego's without supervision, Valentina cries constantly. I'll stay a little longer. A little turned into a month, then 2, then 6. Carmen settled into the small room Isabella had planned as an office. She brought her things, her blankets, her pots, started cooking her own recipes. Isabella would come home and find soup she hated, or meat patties with onions that made her nauseous ever since pregnancy. Carmen, I asked you not to cook this soup. I don't eat it. What do you eat then? Only salads? A man needs real food. Alvaro can decide what he wants to eat. You like my soup, don't you? Yeah, Mom, Alvaro nodded without looking up from his phone. Very tasty. Isabella went to the bedroom, cried quietly into her pillows so no one would hear. The children grew. Diego was 3, Valentina a year and a half. Carmen imposed her own rules. She decided when they bathed, what they ate, what they wore. Isabella tried to intervene, but her mother-in-law ignored her and spoke directly to Alvaro. Tell Isabella it's cold for Diego in this sweater. He needs a warmer one. Alvaro said. Isa, maybe a warmer one? Isabella exploded. I'm the mother. I decide what my children wear. But Mom has experience. She knows better. She knows better? Isabella couldn't believe it. She knows better than me, their mother? Alvaro looked away, silent. Carmen began criticizing Isabella in front of the children. Mom is late again from work. That's bad, isn't it? A mom should spend more time with her children. Mom can't cook like Grandma, but that's okay. Grandma will always feed you. 3-year-old Diego started repeating. Mom cooks bad, Grandma better. Isabella felt something inside her tighten. Her own son, whom she carried, fed, raised, repeated her mother-in-law's words because Carmen spent more time with him, because she was there when Isabella worked. One evening Isabella walked into Diego's room and saw a new large photo of Carmen with the grandchildren on the wall, in a frame, in the most visible place. Who put this up? She asked Alvaro. Mom asked me to. She says the kids should know their grandmother. They do. They see her every day. So what? It makes her happy. Isabella tore the picture off the wall, took it to the kitchen, and set it on the table. Take this away, she said to Carmen. Don't hang your photos in the kids' room. The mother-in-law turned pale, her lips trembling. Do you hear how she talks to me? I do everything for your children, and she's throwing me out. I'm not throwing you out, Isabella rubbed her forehead wearily. I'm just asking you to respect my space. Your space? Carmen jumped up. And what am I here? The help? I've lived with you for half a year. I help out, and you won't even let me hang a photo. Alvaro stood up, walked over to his mother, and hugged her. Mom, calm down. Isabella didn't mean to offend you. She did. She never accepted me from the start. I can see it. Isabella turned, left the kitchen, sat on the bed in the bedroom, and stared at the wall. She realized she couldn't go on like this. She was losing herself, losing the children, losing her own home, and her husband wasn't protecting her, not even trying. The next day she called her mother in Cartagena. Mom, can I come to you with the kids? Just for a while. Of course, honey. What happened? I'll tell you later. Just tell me when I can come. Come tomorrow if you want. Isabella hung up. The decision was made. She would leave. She'd take the children and go to her parents. Let Alvaro think. Let him realize what was happening. Let him choose, mother or wife. Because she couldn't live in this triangle anymore. She wouldn't tell them in advance, wouldn't warn them. She would just pack, put the kids in the car, and go before they could stop her, pressure her, talk her out of it again. She opened the closet, took out a bag, and started packing the kids' things, pajamas, sweaters, Diego's toys. For Valentina, diapers, formula, bottles. She worked quickly, decisively, as if she were completing tasks at work. Carmen came into the bedroom, saw the bag, and frowned. Where are you going? That's none of your business, Isabella replied without turning around. Son, the mother-in-law rushed into the living room. Come here, quickly. Alvaro came in, looked at the bag, then at his wife. Isabella, what's going on? I'm leaving. With the kids. To my parents. What do you mean, leaving? For good? I don't know. We'll see. But why? What for? Isabella straightened up and looked him in the eyes. Because I'm exhausted. Exhausted from your mother running my apartment. Exhausted from you always taking her side. Exhausted from feeling like a stranger in my own home. Alvaro tried to take her hand, but she pulled away. Mom just wants to help. Help? She wants to replace me. She wants the kids to see her as the boss, and you're helping her do it. That's not true. It is true. Isabella closed the bag and zipped it. And if you can't see it, then it really is time for me to go. Carmen stood in the doorway watching them. Her face was pale, her lips pressed into a thin line. See what she's doing? She's destroying the family, taking the children from their father. I told you she's the wrong kind of woman, a selfish one. Isabella raised her eyes to her mother-in-law, looked at her for a long, steady moment, then said quietly, almost calmly, Carmen, you wanted this apartment from the start. I figured that out. You wanted Alvaro to push me out, for me to leave so you could stay. But you know what? This is my apartment, mine, and I'll leave only by my own choice. With the children. She picked up the bag and walked out of the bedroom. Alvaro tried to stop her, grabbing her by the elbow. She pulled free. Don't touch me. She went to the kids' room and woke Diego. The boy started crying, not understanding what was happening. Isabella picked him up, then took Valentina from the crib. The girl cried too. Alvaro stood in the hallway, confused, pale. Isabella, wait, let's talk. It's too late to talk. You should have thought earlier. She got dressed and dressed the children. Diego whimpered, Valentina screamed. Carmen lamented in the kitchen. My God, what is she doing? Stop her. But Alvaro didn't stop her. He just stood there watching his wife leave. Isabella stepped into the stairwell and closed the door behind her. She took the elevator down and went outside. It was cold, the wind tugged at her hair. She put the kids in the car, buckled them in, got behind the wheel. She started the engine and looked up at the windows of her apartment, lights on, the life she had built over 6 years left behind, and the woman who had slowly, steadily been destroying it. Isabella pulled away and headed for the highway to Cartagena. She didn't look back once. The drive took 4 hours. Diego fell asleep after half an hour. Valentina cried the whole way. Isabella drove with a tight grip on the wheel, eyes fixed on the darkness ahead. The headlights cut pieces of road out of the night, white lane markings, the occasional car. Her thoughts spun one after another like a carousel. Her phone was blowing up. Alvaro kept calling, but Isabella didn't answer. Then the messages came. Isabella, where are you? Isabella, please answer. We're worried. Enough sulking. Come back and we'll talk. Calmly. She read them without replying. She muted the phone and kept driving. Her parents met her at the door. Her mother hugged her, took Valentina, and carried her inside. Her father took the bags and nodded silently. He had always been a man of few words, but Isabella saw the worry in his eyes. The house was old, 2 stories, wooden, with creaking floors. It smelled of wood and apples. Her mother had been canning. Isabella went in, took off her coat, and sat on the couch in the living room. Diego pressed against her, sleepy and confused. Mom, where are we? He asked. At Grandma and Grandpa's. Remember we came here in the summer? Where's Dad? Isabella swallowed the lump in her throat. Dad's at home. He'll come later. Lying to her son was hard, but telling the truth was harder. Her mother put the kids to bed in the upstairs room, came back, and sat down next to Isabella. She took her hand. Tell me. Isabella told her everything, about Carmen, the constant pressure, how she was being pushed out of her own life, about Alvaro, who didn't protect her, didn't take his wife's side, about how she started to feel like a stranger in her own apartment, and about her decision to leave. Her mother listened, nodded, didn't interrupt. When Isabella finished, she said, You did the right thing by coming. You needed rest, quiet, time to think. I don't know what to do next. Isabella covered her face with her hands. I can't live like this, but divorce is scary, the kids without a father. Children living with a father who doesn't see what's happening. Her mother squeezed her hand. That's no better than living without him. Her father sat in the chair by the window, silent, then said, That woman wants your apartment. I knew it as soon as you told me about her. I've seen people like that. They creep in quietly, take over bit by bit, and then claim it was theirs all along. Isabella nodded. She had known that for a while. The first days in Cartagena passed calmly. Isabella walked with the kids, helped her mother around the house, slept late, until noon. Alvaro kept calling. She answered briefly, curtly. I'm at my parents'. The kids need a break. When will you come back? I don't know. Isabella, this is ridiculous. Come back, we'll talk everything through. There's nothing to talk about. As long as your mother lives in my apartment, I'm not coming back. My mother has nowhere to go. She does. She has her own apartment. It's cold and damp there. She can't live in it. Then she can renovate it or stay with relatives. But she is not coming back into my apartment. Alvaro stayed silent. Then he said, You're selfish. You only think about yourself. Isabella hung up. Selfish. She, who spent years saving for that apartment, denying herself everything, who gave birth to 2 kids, worked, ran the household, selfish, because she didn't want to give her home to his mother. Carmen called less often, but more pointedly. She left voice messages. Isabella, what are you doing? The children are without their father. Alvaro is suffering. You're destroying the family. Think about it. Dieguito and Valentinita miss you so much. Grandma is waiting. Come soon. Isabella never listened to the end. She deleted the messages immediately. A week later Alvaro showed up. Without warning, he appeared at her parents' gate. Isabella saw him from the window and went outside. Why are you here? To talk. Properly talk. We have nothing to talk about. Isabella, please. I miss the kids. Can I at least see them? She hesitated, then nodded. Called Diego. The boy ran out, saw his father, ran to him. Alvaro picked him up and held him close. Isabella could see he was struggling. He really did miss his son. They sat on a bench in the yard. Valentina slept in the stroller nearby. Diego played with toy cars on the grass. Alvaro looked at his wife. Isabella, I know it's hard for you. I know my mom overstepped. But let's find a solution. She'll leave if you come back. She has promised to leave 10 times and she never did. But this time it's different. I talked to her, she agreed. Alvaro, you don't understand. Isabella shook her head tiredly. It's not only about her, it's about you. You never stood up for me. Not once. You always chose her. She's my mother. And I'm your wife, the mother of your children. But she matters more to you. Alvaro said nothing, staring at the ground, plucking grass. I don't want to choose between you. Then you already chose, Isabella said quietly. You chose her. She stood up, took Diego's hand, and pushed the stroller toward the house. Alvaro stayed seated. Isabella turned at the porch and looked at him. He looked small, lost. But she felt no pity, only emptiness. Alvaro left in the evening. He didn't say goodbye. He just got in the car and drove away. Isabella went to bed late and couldn't fall asleep for a long time. She wondered what would come next. Divorce, court, division of property. Though there was nothing to divide, the apartment was hers legally. But Alvaro might still try to contest it, might claim he invested, did renovations, bought furniture, might try to fight for a share. The next day Isabella called a lawyer, Paloma, the one who drafted the prenup. She explained everything. Paloma listened and said, a prenup is good, but if he tries to prove the apartment was used as marital property, it can be complicated. Gather everything, receipts for the purchase, bank statements, witness testimony. And most importantly, don't give him grounds to claim you abandoned the family. I didn't abandon anyone, I just left with the kids. Legally it can look different. Be careful. Isabella hung up. She understood she needed to prepare. She needed to protect herself and the kids, because if Carmen truly wanted the apartment, she wouldn't stop. 3 days later Alvaro called again. His voice was tight, tense. Isabella, we need to meet. Seriously. About what? The apartment. Her stomach dropped. What? About the apartment? Come, we'll talk. In person. Talk on the phone. Pause. Mom thinks we should sell the apartment and buy 2 smaller ones. One for us and the kids, one for her. That way everyone wins. Isabella froze. For a few seconds she couldn't speak. Then whispered, are you insane? Isabella, listen. It makes sense. A 3-bedroom on Simón Bolívar Avenue is worth around $140,000 right now. We can get 2 studios for $50,000 each and still have money left. Mom gets her place, we get ours, everyone's happy. Alvaro, it's my apartment. There's a prenup. You have no right to sell it. But we're family. We must help each other. Helping is one thing. Giving away my only home to your mother is another. You're thinking only about yourself again. Yes, I am thinking about myself, because no one else does. Not you. Certainly not your mother. She hung up. Her hand shook. She sat on the bed, squeezing her phone. So this was it. They were already making plans, calculating the value, figuring out how to split the apartment. Was she supposed to just agree? Give up what she spent 6 years earning? Isabella called Paloma. The lawyer listened and said simply, come to Bogotá immediately. We need to file a court request to restrict access to the apartment and change the locks. Change the locks? Yes. He has keys, his mother too. They can do anything while you're in Cartagena. You need to protect the property. But isn't that? It's necessary. Do you want to protect your apartment or not? Isabella swallowed. Yes. Then act. Come tomorrow. Isabella drove to Bogotá the next day, left the kids with her mom, met Paloma, discussed everything. The lawyer was serious. Isabella, if they want to sell the apartment, they will move fast. They can try to get a power of attorney, fake papers. They can empty the place and claim it's marital property. You must move first. How? First, change the locks. Second, file a court order confirming your ownership and prohibiting any actions without your consent. Third, collect proof the apartment was purchased before the marriage with your money. Isabella nodded and signed all the documents. The locks were changed the next day. A locksmith removed the old ones and installed new ones. Isabella took the keys, gave one set to Paloma for safekeeping, another she kept, and a third she sent with her mother to Cartagena. She did not inform Alvaro, just did it. He called in the evening, shouting, "What did you do? You changed the locks?" "Yes." "How dare you?" "Easily. It's my apartment. I have the right. We live there." "You lived there." "Not anymore." "Isabella, you've gone crazy. Mom came home from work and can't get in." Isabella smirked. "Home? That's not her home. It's mine. She can go to her place in Chapinero. She can't live there. Then she can renovate it, or rent somewhere. But she's not coming into my apartment again." Alvaro breathed hard, furious, then hissed quietly, "You will regret this," and hung up. Isabella put the phone on the table. Her hands were trembling, but not from fear, from relief. She had done it. She had protected what was hers at last. Carmen called an hour later. Her voice was hysterical, breaking. "What are you doing, you ungrateful girl? I helped you for half a year, took care of your children, cooked, cleaned, and you threw me out on the street. Carmen, you have your own place. Go there. You have no shame. You turned Alvaro against his mother, and now you kick me out of the house. I will never forgive you. You don't need to forgive me. Just leave us alone." Isabella ended the call, blocked her mother-in-law's number, then blocked Alvaro's too. She sat on the couch at her mother's house and held her head in her hands. That was it. Bridges burned. No way back. Her mother brought tea and sat beside her. "Are you sure you did the right thing?" "Yes. If I hadn't, they would have crushed me." "And now what?" "Now divorce, division of property, child support. It will be hard." "It will, but not harder than living with them." The next 2 weeks were tense. Alvaro tried to reach her through mutual friends. His cousin called, begging Isabella to compromise. Carmen's friend called too, crying on the phone, saying how horrible it was for Carmen to be left without a roof over her head. Isabella answered simply, "She has her own apartment, but it's cold there. Then she can fix it. She has no money. Then let Alvaro pay for the renovation. He is such a devoted son." She hung up, blocked more numbers, kept living. Diego missed his father. "Mom, when are we going home? When will we see Dad?" Isabella didn't know what to say. "Soon, sweetheart. Just wait a little." But she understood, soon might never come. A month later, a court summons arrived. Alvaro had filed for divorce. Isabella expected that. She hired a lawyer, gathered documents, and went to the hearing. Court was tough. Alvaro sat across from her, pale, thin, avoiding her eyes. Next to him, Carmen in a strict black suit, holding a folder. Alvaro's lawyer, a sharp-eyed young woman, started attacking immediately. "My client states that Isabella abandoned the family, took the children, and denied him the right to see them. This violates the father's rights." Isabella's lawyer objected. "My client did not abandon the family. She temporarily went to her parents with the children because living conditions became unbearable. Her husband did not protect her interests and allowed his mother-in-law to interfere in their family life." "What interference?" Alvaro's lawyer raised an eyebrow. "Carmen helped with the children, cooked, cleaned, that is normal grandmotherly support. The help turned into control. The mother-in-law effectively seized the apartment, imposed her own rules, and ignored Isabella's opinion." Isabella's lawyer pulled out a folder. Witness statements from neighbors who saw Carmen constantly coming and going, behaving like the owner. Chats where Isabella complained about the situation. Audio recordings of Alvaro telling her to come back and stop making trouble. The judge reviewed everything, asked questions, then moved to the main issue. Regarding property division, the apartment on Simón Bolívar Avenue is registered to Isabella, purchased before marriage, with a prenuptial agreement stating it remains her property. Any objections? Alvaro's lawyer nodded. "Yes. My client contributed money to the renovation, furniture, and appliances. He has the right to compensation." "What amounts?" "About $3,000. We have receipts." Isabella's lawyer smirked. $3,000 over 5 years of marriage is insignificant compared to the value of the property. My client will agree to compensation if proof is provided. The judge nodded and scheduled another hearing to review receipts. After court, Isabella stepped outside and inhaled the cold air. The lawyer patted her shoulder. It's fine. The apartment stays with you. At most you'll pay him compensation if he proves it. And the kids? That's harder. He will ask for visitation. Courts usually support the father. I don't object. Let him see them. I just don't want Carmen involved. That can be specified in the ruling. Isabella nodded and walked to her car. She saw Alvaro standing there, alone, without his mother. She approached and stopped a meter away. What do you want? To talk. One last time. Say it. He looked at her for a long time, then spoke quietly. I didn't want things to end like this. They ended this way. Mom was right. You're selfish. You only think about yourself. Isabella gave a bitter smile. You know, Alvaro, I spent years buying that apartment. Work, saving, giving up everything. It's mine. And yes, I will protect what's mine. If that's selfish, that's your problem. My mom has nowhere to live. She has an apartment in Chapinero. She can't live there. Then she can sell it and buy another. Or you can rent her one. You work, you have a salary. But she will never get my home. Ever. Alvaro clenched his jaw, eyes flashing with anger. You'll regret this. I already won't. The worst part was living with you. She walked around him, got into her car, started it, and drove off without looking back. On the way to Cartagena, she thought about what came next. Divorce would be finalized in a month or two. The apartment would remain hers, no doubt. Alvaro would pay child support, see the kids on weekends. And Carmen? She would return to her small apartment, live alone, be angry, plot something new? Isabella didn't know and didn't care. That woman was no longer her problem. She arrived late in Cartagena. The kids were asleep. Her mother met her at the porch and hugged her. Well, the apartment stays mine. We'll be divorced soon. Are you sure this is right? Isabella nodded. Yes, I can't live like that anymore. I don't want to. Her mother sighed and stroked her hair. Then stay here as long as you need. We'll help you. Isabella cried quietly into her mother's shoulder. Not from sorrow, but from relief. For the first time in a long while, she felt safe. 3 more weeks passed. Isabella lived in Cartagena, worked remotely, raised the kids. Alvaro called sometimes to speak to Diego. She allowed it. The boy smiled, talked to his father on video, then got sad and asked, Mom, will we ever go home? We will, sweetheart. Soon. She did plan to return, just not yet. She needed time. Time for the divorce, time for Alvaro and Carmen to calm down. Then she would go back to her apartment, put the kids in daycare and school, and start again. But one evening, sitting in her mother's kitchen reading documents from her lawyer, a notification appeared on her phone from the security system. Isabella had installed it 2 years earlier, just in case. She had a few cameras, one in the hallway, one in the living room, one in the kids' room to know what happened at home when she was away. She hadn't checked the footage in a long time because no one was supposed to be in the apartment. The locks were changed, nobody had keys. But the notification came, motion detected in the apartment. Isabella opened the app, switched to the hallway camera, and froze. Carmen was on the screen. She was opening the door with a new key, stepping into the apartment, looking around, pleased, confident, as if she had come home. Isabella stared at the screen, unable to believe her eyes. How did she get inside? The locks had been changed. Then she understood, the locksmith. She had called the locksmith, changed the locks again, made herself keys. Her heart pounded. Isabella switched to the building's entrance camera. Yes, there was a system there too, installed 2 years ago by the building management after tenant complaints. The recording showed Carmen arriving at the entrance, opening the intercom with her old code, going in. Then she climbed the stairs. Then the locksmith appeared. A young guy with a toolbox. They talked about something. The locksmith began working on the lock. Isabella watched the recording to the end. The locksmith changed the lock and handed Carmen the keys. She paid, he left. She stayed. She opened the door with the new key and entered the apartment. On the hallway camera you could see the mother-in-law walking through the rooms, touching things, opening closets. She sat down on the living room sofa, looked around, and smiled. Isabella exhaled. So that was it. Carmen had decided to act, to seize the apartment by force, since the gentle approach hadn't worked. But she didn't know about the cameras, and Isabella did. And Isabella had the evidence. She saved all the recordings, copied them to a flash drive, and called Paloma. Paloma, I have a problem. My mother-in-law broke into my apartment. How? She changed the locks, called a locksmith, made herself keys. But I recorded everything. The cameras in the apartment and in the entrance captured it all. The lawyer was silent for a moment, then said slowly, Isabella, that's unlawful entry into a dwelling. A criminal offense. You can file a police report. Seriously? Absolutely. You have evidence, video recordings. They clearly show she entered without your permission, using forged keys. Isabella gripped the phone tighter. What should I do? Come to me tomorrow morning. We'll prepare the report and go to the police. With evidence like this, they'll detain her. Isabella hung up, sat down on a chair, and stared at the wall. Police, a report, a criminal case. She hadn't wanted it to come to this. She didn't want to put her mother-in-law in jail, but what else was left? Carmen wouldn't stop. She would push, demand, and take until she got everything. So she had to be stopped, once and for all. Isabella opened the video again and watched Carmen enter the apartment, sit on the sofa, and smile. That smile said it all. I've won. The apartment is mine. But you've lost, Carmen, Isabella thought, because I caught you, and now you'll answer for it. Isabella didn't sleep all night. She sat in the kitchen, rewatching the footage over and over. Every frame, every movement of Carmen was clearly recorded. There she was entering the building, climbing the stairs, talking to the locksmith, showing him the door. The locksmith worked for about 20 minutes, removed the old lock, installed a new one. Carmen paid in cash, took the keys, the locksmith left. Then she opened the door, went in, looked around. Triumph on her face. She walked through the rooms, opened closets, checked the fridge, sat on Isabella's sofa, put her feet on the coffee table, turned on the TV. She sat there for about 40 minutes, watched some show, then got up, went to the bedroom, and lay down on Isabella's bed. Just lay there, arms spread, staring at the ceiling, smiling. Isabella watched the screen and felt anger boil inside her. This woman was lying on her bed, in her apartment, which she hadn't bought, hadn't paid for, to which she had no claim, yet she acted like the owner. In the morning, Isabella copied all the videos to a flash drive, called Paloma, and arranged a meeting. She drove to Bogota, leaving the children with her mother. In the lawyer's office, she opened her laptop and showed the recordings. Paloma watched in silence, her face growing more serious. "This is gold," she said when the video ended. "Pure gold. You have everything, face, time, actions." She didn't just go in, she changed the locks. That's not just unlawful entry, it's deliberate action to take over someone else's property. What should I do? We're going to the police. Right now. You'll file a report and attach the videos. They are obligated to open a case. Isabella nodded. They went to the district station on Simón Bolívar Avenue. The duty officer greeted them indifferently, half listened. But when Paloma played the recording on the tablet, his face changed. "Wait here." He left, then returned 10 minutes later with an older man in uniform. Investigator Gutierrez introduced himself briefly. He sat across from Isabella, watched the videos again, and asked a few questions. "Is this your apartment?" "Yes, here are the ownership documents." "Does this woman have keys?" "She did. I took them when I left. Then I changed the locks. But she called a locksmith, installed new locks, and made herself keys." "Did you give her permission?" "No, neither verbal nor written." The investigator nodded and jotted notes. "All right, write the report. In detail, with all circumstances. Leave the recordings with us. We'll open a criminal case for violation of the inviolability of the home. There may also be charges of fraud by deception or abuse of trust." Isabella sat down and started writing. Her hand shook, the letters blurred, but she tried to be precise and factual. She described the whole story, how Carmen gradually took over the apartment, pressured her, planned to sell the place. How Isabella left, changed the locks, and the mother-in-law responded by making her own keys and entering. The report ran 3 pages. She signed and dated it. Paloma signed as representative. The investigator took the documents and put them in a folder. Within 3 days we'll issue a decision to open the case. Then we'll summon this woman for questioning. If she admits guilt, fine. If not, we'll proceed. What does she face? Isabella asked quietly. Up to 3 years imprisonment for the first offense. If we prove intent on the second, it could be harsher. That will be for the court to decide. Isabella stood up, thanked him, went outside, and gulped cold air. Paloma walked beside her. Are you sure you want to see this through? The lawyer asked. She's your husband's mother. Your ex-husband's. I'm sure, Isabella said, meeting her eyes. She crossed the line. She believed she could do anything because I wouldn't resist. But I will. And let everyone know, what's mine is mine. No one has the right to take it. Paloma nodded. Then be ready. It will be hard. 2 days later, investigator Gutierrez called Isabella. He told her the case had been opened. Carmen had been summoned for questioning. She came with a lawyer, denied everything, claimed she had the right to be in the apartment because she helped the family, lived there for half a year, and it was essentially her home. But when they showed her the camera recordings, she faltered. She tried to explain she only wanted to pick up her things, that she hadn't intended to steal anything, but the investigator asked bluntly, "Why did you change the locks?" "Tu thought I had the right. I lived there." "You're not the owner. The owner is Isabella. She changed the locks because she didn't want you entering. You violated her will and changed the locks again. That's illegal." Carmen fell silent. The lawyer asked for time to consult, and the investigator gave them 15 minutes. When they returned, the lawyer said his client was ready to admit partial guilt. Yes, she had changed the locks. Yes, she had entered the apartment, but not to take it over, only to retrieve personal belongings. The investigator recorded the statement, but his expression was skeptical. "All right, we'll verify. We'll impose a travel restriction." Carmen was released, but a week later the investigator called Isabella again. "Isabella, we need to inspect the apartment, to verify what she did there. Can you come?" Isabella came the next day. She met the investigator at the entrance. They went up to the apartment. The lock was still the one Carmen had installed. The investigator photographed it and noted the details. Then they went inside. The apartment looked different, not as Isabella had left it. Things had been moved around. There were new dishes in the kitchen, cheap mass-market ones, not what Isabella had bought. On the bed in the bedroom lay someone else's blanket. Carmen's clothes were hanging in the closet. She was planning to live here, Isabella said quietly, not pick up things, live. The investigator nodded, photographing everything. In the hallway they found documents, a work order for the lock installation and a receipt in Carmen's name. She had listed herself as the apartment's owner. "This is more serious," Gutierrez said. "She didn't just enter, she tried to secure a right to the dwelling. Document forgery, fraud, now we're talking about different charges." Isabella clenched her teeth. So she had been right. Carmen wanted to push her out completely, take the apartment, and put it in her own name. "What happens next?" she asked. "Next come forensic reviews and additional interviews. Then court. The process will take 3 to 4 months. Prepare yourself." Isabella nodded and asked to change the lock again. The investigator allowed it, but only after they finished the inspection. 2 hours later the locksmith arrived and installed a new lock, the third in recent months. Isabella took the keys, locked the apartment, and went back to Cartagena. Alvaro learned about the police report a week later and called, shouting, "What are you doing? You filed a report against my mother?" "Yes. She entered my apartment illegally. She just wanted to pick up her things. She wanted to take over the apartment, and you know it. You were aware of her plans." Alvaro fell silent, then said more quietly, "I didn't know she'd changed the locks. But you knew she wanted the apartment. You yourself told me, let's sell it and buy 2 studios. That was your plan, hers and yours. Isabella, she's my mother. You can't put her in prison. I can, and I will, so others understand you can't take what isn't yours. You're heartless." "No, Alvaro, I'm just defending what's mine, what I spent 6 years of my life on. And you betrayed me for your mother, and now you both can face the consequences." She hung up and blocked his number again. The next 3 months dragged on. The investigation gathered evidence and questioned the locksmith who had changed the locks. He confirmed that Carmen presented herself as the owner of the apartment, showed her ID, and paid in cash. Neighbors were questioned. They said they saw the mother-in-law there constantly, that she behaved like the owner, even told someone the apartment was hers now. All of this went into the case file. The investigator classified Carmen's actions under 2 articles: unlawful entry into a dwelling and attempted fraud. The materials were sent to court. The hearing was scheduled for early November. Isabella arrived a day before the trial and stayed with her friend Rocio, who had once introduced her to Alvaro. Rocio met her with sympathy. "Hang in there, Isabella. You're doing the right thing. I'm scared. I know, but you're strong. You'll manage." In the morning, Isabella dressed formally, black suit, white blouse, minimal makeup. She tied her hair in a bun. She looked serious, professional. She arrived at court half an hour early. In the hallway sat Carmen, aged, gaunt, in an old coat. Next to her, a young, weary-looking male lawyer. Alvaro stood by the window, vaping. He saw Isabella and turned away. Isabella walked past without looking at them and sat on a bench aside. Paloma, representing her as the victim, sat next to her. The hearing began at 10 o'clock. The courtroom was small, about 30 seats. Few people had come: Isabella, Paloma, Carmen, her lawyer, Alvaro, investigator Gutierrez, and a few witnesses. The judge, a stern woman in her 50s wearing glasses, read the case materials. Then she asked Carmen, "Do you plead guilty?" Carmen stood, gripping the back of her chair. Her voice shook. "I admitted partially. Yes, I had the locks changed. Yes, I entered the apartment, but I didn't want to steal anything. I just wanted to live there. I helped this family for half a year, watched the grandchildren, cooked, cleaned. And then they kicked me out. Just like that. My own apartment is unlivable. I thought I had the right." "What right?" The judge looked over her glasses. "The owner of the apartment is Isabella. You are not a registered resident, not legally related in that way. You have no rights to this dwelling. But I helped. Help does not grant rights to someone else's property. Do you understand?" Carmen lowered her head and fell silent. Her lawyer tried to soften things. "Your Honor, my client is an elderly woman, a pensioner. She did not act out of greed but out of a difficult life situation. She was expelled from the apartment where she had effectively been living. She panicked and acted rashly. We ask that you consider her age, health, and lack of prior convictions." The judge nodded, made a note, then asked, "Isabella, please present your version of events." Isabella stood, her heart pounded, but her voice was steady. "I bought the apartment on Simon Bolivar Avenue before the marriage, with my own money. Later I married Alvaro, Carmen's son. We signed a prenuptial agreement stating the apartment remains my property. Carmen began to visit often to help with the children. Then she moved in permanently. I didn't send her away immediately because I needed help, but she started acting like the owner, rearranging furniture, criticizing me, pressuring my husband. I realized she wanted to take over the apartment. When I went to my parents, she called a locksmith, changed the locks, made herself keys, and entered the apartment. I recorded all of this on camera. She wasn't picking up her things. She was setting up the apartment for herself, bringing her own dishes and clothes, telling the locksmith she was the owner. It was a planned action, not a spontaneous one." The judge nodded. "Understood. Is there evidence?" Paloma handed over a file. The judge reviewed the camera footage, documents, and witness statements, then announced a recess for deliberation. Isabella went into the hallway and sat on a bench. Her hands were shaking. Rocio texted, "Stay strong, you're doing great." Isabella replied briefly, "Thanks." Alvaro approached and sat beside her without looking at her. "Isabella, can we talk? Say what you want." "I wanted to say I'm sorry. I was wrong. I should have protected you, but I couldn't go against my mother. I'm a coward." Isabella looked at him. He looked worn out, older. "Yes, you are a coward. I know, and I understand you won't forgive me, But please, don't send my mother to prison. She's old, sick, prison will kill her. Alvaro, she tried to take my home that I built over years. She thought she could do anything, and you helped her. You both deserve punishment. Punish me. I'm ready. But spare her. Isabella shook her head. Too late. The court will decide. Alvaro stood and stepped away. Isabella saw him wipe his eyes, but she felt no pity. He had made his choice when his mother mattered more than his wife. Now he had to live with the consequences. An hour later the judge returned and read the verdict. Carmen is found guilty of the offenses of unlawful entry into a dwelling and attempted fraud. The sentence is 1 year and 6 months of imprisonment to be served in a standard open colony. Silence fell over the room. Carmen sobbed and covered her face with her hands. Her lawyer jotted notes. Alvaro turned pale and sat down. Isabella listened to the sentence and felt a strange emptiness, no joy, no satisfaction, just emptiness. She had achieved her goal. Carmen would be punished, but the victory was bitter. The judge continued. Carmen is also ordered to reimburse Isabella for the cost of changing the locks in the amount of $250 and to pay $500 in moral damages. The verdict may be appealed within 10 days. The session ended. Carmen was led away. She walked slowly, hunched, holding the bailiff's arm. She didn't look back at her son or her daughter-in-law. She just walked. Alvaro remained in the room, motionless. Isabella passed by without looking at him, went outside, and inhaled the cold air. Paloma caught up with her and put an arm around her shoulders. It's over. You won. Doesn't feel like a win, Isabella smiled weakly. But it is. You defended what's yours. You showed that no one can take from you what you earned. Isabella nodded. They walked to the car. On the way, Paloma said, now the divorce is the final step. The divorce was finalized a month later, quickly and without disputes. Alvaro did not contest the apartment and made no further demands. He simply signed the papers and asked for the right to see the children on weekends. Isabella agreed. The children were not to blame for what happened between their parents. The court set child support at 30% of Alvaro's salary for both children and granted him visitation twice a week, but without the grandmother's involvement. That was important to Isabella, to keep Carmen from influencing the grandchildren anymore. When all the papers were signed, Isabella returned to her apartment on Simón Bolívar Avenue. She opened the door and went in. It smelled of dust. She opened the windows to air it out. She walked through the rooms, removed Carmen's things, threw out the dishes, clothes, blankets, everything that reminded her of Carmen. Then she mopped the floors, wiped the dust, and put on fresh bedding. The apartment was hers again, her space, her territory. But there was no joy, only fatigue and emptiness. Isabella lay down on the couch and stared at the ceiling. She thought about everything that had happened over the past year, how the family had fallen apart, how she fought for what was hers, how she lost her husband, her peace, almost lost her children. She had won. The apartment remained hers, the mother-in-law was in prison, the divorce was finalized, yet the price was steep. Diego and Valentina were left without a full family. Alvaro was left without a wife. Carmen was behind bars. Everyone lost, even Isabella. She stood up, walked to the window, and looked at the evening city, the lights, the cars below. She remembered how she bought this apartment, how happy she had been, how she planned, dreamed of a happy family, of children growing up here. It turned out nothing like she imagined. Her phone rang. It was her mother from Cartagena. Isabella, how are you? I'm all right, Mom. Tired. When are you coming for the children? On the weekend. Good. Take care of yourself, sweetheart. I am. Isabella hung up, sat on the windowsill, hugged her knees. She thought about what would come next. She would return to the office, restart work, bring the kids back, enroll them in daycare and school. She would live alone, without a husband, without a mother-in-law, without pressure. Free, but lonely. Diego would ask about his father. Valentina would grow up without remembering what the family used to be like. Alvaro would come on weekends, play with the children, then leave again. Carmen would be released in a year, return to her small apartment in Chapinero. She would be bitter, maybe even try something again, but Isabella was no longer afraid. She knew she could protect herself and her children now. In the morning, Isabella woke up early, made coffee, and sat down at her laptop. She opened her email, dozens of messages from colleagues and clients. Everyone asked when she was coming back. She wrote to her boss, "I'm starting Monday." He replied, "Great, we're waiting." Work would be her refuge. Projects, tasks, deadlines. No time to dwell on the past, no time for self-pity. She had to move forward. On the weekend, Isabella drove to Cartagena to pick up the children. Diego ran to her, thrilled. Valentina smiled and reached out her little arms. Isabella held them tight, breathing in the smell of their hair. For them she had done all of this, for their future, their safety. "Mom, are we going home?" Diego asked. "Yes, sweetheart, we're going home." They packed, said goodbye to Isabella's parents. She put the children in the car and drove to Bogota. Diego talked the entire road, telling her how he fed chickens with his grandfather, how they walked in the yard. Valentina slept, breathing softly in her seat. When they arrived, Diego ran into the apartment and shouted joyfully, "Hooray, we're home!" Isabella smiled. Yes, they were home. In their home, where no one would command, dictate, or take anything away anymore. In the evening, Isabella put the children to bed, read Diego a story. He fell asleep quickly, hugging his beloved teddy bear. Isabella kissed his forehead and left the room. She sat in the kitchen and poured herself tea, looked out the window at the night city. She thought about the fact that life goes on. Ahead lay work, the children, new problems, new joys, loneliness, but also freedom. The right to live the way she wanted, without pressure, without manipulation. She had paid a high price for this. She lost her family, her peace, her trust in people. But she kept the most important thing, herself, her dignity, her home. Isabella finished her tea, washed her cup, turned off the lights, went to the bedroom, and lay down. She closed her eyes. Fatigue crashed over her instantly. But before falling asleep she thought, "I did it. I stood my ground. I made it." And she fell asleep deeply, without nightmares. For the first time in a long time.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.